On today's episode of GuestX podcast, we're talking to Clinical Associate Professor and Director of Hospitality Management Programs at FAU, Dr. Peter Ricci. Dr. Ricci is a hospitality industry veteran with over 20 years of managerial experience in segments including food service, lodging, incentive travel, and destination marketing. While filling the role of hotel general manager for almost a decade, Dr. Ricci served as part-time educator before entering academia, full-time as both a clinical associate professor and administrator. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, Peter, it's good to
have... sound so fancy on those long intros.
It was a very fancy. I think that's probably the fanciest intro we've had.
Yeah, in academia, we have long, fancy titles, which is just how we justify our existence. That's fun. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you. Thank you for joining us. This is, I think we're going to get a chance to talk about a number of key subjects that Brian and I have gone back and forth about for quite some time, all related to guest experience. You know, Brian, as you and I say, the guest experience really starts with and ends with the human touch. It is, at the end of the day, it's still hospitality. The technology may make it look easier. It may make it a little, maybe a little fancier on the front end. But at the end of the day, hospitality, I think, always is a people business. Always has been, always will be. And Peter, we'd love to get your take here. I think one of the things, maybe a great question to start off with, is just, we've got such a labor issue in hospitality. It is a tough industry. A lot of it cannot be done, sitting at home. Remote work in hospitality for a lot of the positions is not a thing. And I think that's certainly made it more difficult. But, I think a lot of people in hospitality have kind of wondered, where did this labor go and what has happened? And I think a lot of them thought that, the easing of some of the government subsidies and things might help. I know international is still difficult to get people over here on work visas and stuff. So maybe that's part of it, but you're probably as close to it as anyone, definitely than anyone we've talked to so far on the GuestX podcast. Can you give our listeners your understanding or kind of your thoughts on what we're seeing in the labor market and hospitality?
Sure. It's, here in Florida, we're so much busier than many other places. So we have a tremendous pressure point for labor. We came back earlier because of the weather, because of being perceived as outdoor, because of things that the governor did. So we were busier earlier on. And down here where I live in South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach, the operations managers and owners were just flipping out because we could not find enough staff. And everywhere I would go, everybody was down about 50% of what they needed. Everybody had these hopes on the federal stimulus going away, and our governor tried to end it here earlier. I think the lawsuit's still in progress as far as I read, but it didn't really move the needle as much as anybody wanted. And then it kind of fell out of the media limelight and darling areas being the solution. So when I'm out and about now, people tell me the labor situation is better, but they're still down about 10 to 20% on average everywhere I go of what they truly need. The change is that we all rushed to increase entry-level starting pay because that was the biggest gripe nationally and on LinkedIn and on social media chats everywhere. That was the biggest gripe during the pandemic is I'm not going back to this, business when I can go make more money driving Uber or working in a call center for Amazon or doing this or that. So that helped a little bit. The fact that unemployment ran out helped a little bit. All these pieces helped a little bit. But, I have a very macro level view of this industry. I'm 56 and I've been in it since I was 14. And I have never seen anything like this ever in my lifetime. I mean, we've always had a perception of being low pay, long hours. Unless you love it and you're passionate about it, don't do it. And then people try it and really fall in love with it for life. Well, the number I see falling in love with it right now is very low. I have, I have parents telling their children not to study it. If you're going to go to college, don't come in for hospitality. I have current students asking me what else can they do with the services skills, but not work in a hotel, restaurant, or theme park. We were very fortunate that we had a certificate that we offered during the pandemic, and we've had over 80,000 people involved with it now, and many of them have connected with me and still do. So their comments are as varied as humans are as people, but there's certain themes, and the themes are, I felt betrayed because I gave my whole life to hospitality, taking care of other people. And as soon as COVID came, my employer, company, whatever it was, didn't do anything for me. They abandoned me immediately. So we were taught to be caregivers, but then we felt the rug pulled out of us. That's a very common theme. And another one is, oh my God, I found that I could work 3 days a week driving for Lyft and not have to deal with any guest except the one in my car, and I like it better. And there's just all kinds of things. So it's a very big ball of wax, or whatever that saying is. And the students I do have right now, I'm telling them, wow, this is the best time to enter hospitality, because that front desk job was paying $12 an hour before COVID. Now it's paying $16, and they're short 20% staff. So if you prove yourself, you're going to move up within 6 months and be a manager, and you're going to have opportunities like never before if you get in right now at this time. So there's some positives, there's some negatives. Another positive I like is that owners and operators are really thinking of work-life balance and better benefits and pay so that we can get people back. And I know it's impacting the bottom line negatively, but it's a piece of reality. So, I guess I'll end this little summary that it was a long time coming. I mean, I've been in the business for 42 years. I've always known that we paid a little bit too low and we required long hours. So the pandemic created in workers like a mass exodus and a loud voice. And now it's time where we can meet in the middle and come together, because in the end, it's a fantastic industry. And I can't imagine doing anything else. But we're just in a patch of turbulent air. So I don't know if that's too much of a story.
That is a pretty impressive story, to be honest, and a lot to unpack there. I mean, one of the things that I think I'd like to uncover a little bit more is the actual culture behind hospitality. Do we need to start rethinking about hospitality in general, how we train our people, how we present the hospitality industry to the people that we're training? And what does that look like from that perspective? I mean, your certificates, let's start there. You put together a program where you start training all of these incoming people. They want to learn more, they want to know more. Have you had to rethink on the way that you've presented these courses?
Absolutely. I mean, we did it as a gesture of good faith, because I spent most of my time as a regional VP or a general manager, and I knew that when these people were going to be home during lockdown, they were going to go bananas. I mean, plain and simple. So my goal was, hey, they don't have the time to go to college. They might not have the money. So let's do a very short 20-hour course on topics that would be useful for someone in this business. A little bit of finance, a little bit of hospitality law, a little bit of guest service, a little bit of marketing, food and beverage, whatever. And it took off and went viral like something I could have never, ever imagined. At the same time, we had so many people go through it that we had to put them in cohorts of 20,000 or so. And each cohort, as we moved through 2020 into 2021, had a very different viewpoint of their life in hospitality. The first cohort was ecstatic because they finally had a vacation. The second cohort was worried about losing their PTO and about to get furloughed. The third cohort was hating us because they had been terminated, furloughed, or thrown out without due cause, which in my opinion was ludicrous because nobody was open. Of course, there was due cause. I'm speaking to the former lawyer here. So I mean, it's just kind of, well, yeah, I guess you're always a lawyer. Excuse the former, but I'm just saying, I grew up in this business loving it. I would tell people, come work in it. It's a blast. You meet people from all over the world. It's a passion. And they would say often things like, oh, work in a restaurant? That's just a job you have on the way to go into law school. Or, work in a hotel. Why are you going to do that? You need a second job? Are you that broke? I mean, Americans never consider this as a professional industry. So I think part of your question is, yes, we need a super good PR campaign because we've always lacked one. And the opportunities, I grew up as a kid on welfare. The opportunities from a kid on welfare to go to a six-figure salary by 30 years old, they don't happen in every business, but they happen regularly in hospitality. And if you have an innate desire to serve people, you will find a home somewhere in this business. I mean, it could be vacation ownership, it could be a theme park, it could be working for Virgin Cruise Line, which just started sailing. I mean, we offer truly, pun intended, a world of opportunity we are a business. Why we don't get perceived as other business professions always has confounded me and still does to this day, because we are simply a service business.
It's fascinating because I love this industry. And honestly, there is very similar background. I mean, when I came into the industry, I had absolutely nothing. I found property management. I sold everything I had. I bought myself a little truck, got started with one house, painted the house, and then I received my first guest. And there it was, the beginning of a business. I now, we ended up getting up to about 75 homes, but it transitioned me into another passion within the industry, which was guest experience. I stumbled across it, and I found that I had a real passion to make people enjoy their vacation, making sure that what they're looking for and what they're paying for is right, and that the people that are receiving them are happy people. I wanted to make people's vacation perfect. And the irony behind, people not seeing this as a business, as an industry that you can grow in and love, just it almost doesn't make any sense, because that's what hospitality is. I don't know, Matt, you came into this business as well, and you serve the guest experience side of it. And I've never asked you this question, but why guest experience?
I think it's why hospitality, or was why hospitality for me, which was I find energy in people, right? And I think that's what you see in a lot of hospitality. And I hadn't really thought of it before, but Peter brings up a really good point. When it comes to industries, the number of industries where you can start off, I tell the story at Argonne Capital, we had 1,000 restaurants. Last year I left, we did over $1 billion in restaurant sales, I think. One of the board members was a guy, and he's passed away since, but Bob Leonard. I don't think Bob graduated high school. He may have, but it may have been like a GED. Definitely did not go to college. When Bob retired, he ran over 350 IHOPs. He was which was the largest IHOP franchisee. I mean, he literally went from washing dishes at an IHOP all the way up to, and then sat on our board at the time of his passing. You can't do that in law. You have to go and you have to get a law degree, right? Which is
absolutely
really expensive. And,
and you have to clerk and do your time.
You do your time, medical school and everything else. This is an industry that not only, I would say, appreciates hard work, but it's probably the easiest way to get, from A to B in this industry is just sheer grit. And a lot of times those are the people who maybe aren't going to go to college. Maybe they go
Correct.
to college, or, and maybe some of them shouldn't, but you know what? They're going to outwork the person next to them. And like you said, Brian, if you show up every day and you're like, no one at this job is going to make the guest happier than I am, I guarantee you, I will find you 1,000 employers right now that will hire you and pay you handsomely for doing such.
Amen.
And we
Right on the
get
money.
that message out. Peter's right.
Yeah.
Bad.
And
Right on the
actually,
money.
you look at one of those companies that's excelled at doing something like this is Disney, right? They have one thing that they've done is built a culture around their employees. They aren't, and it's known, they aren't the best well-paid employees, but what they are is very enthusiastic and they absolutely love to go work for the mouse. They point the right way, they smile at you, they're always in character. It's a hard job, but they do it every single day because they love to be in front of the people and watch the people and the kids smile. And part of what you said, Peter, is I think we need to get back down to the roots of hospitality, which is how do we start teaching people that they're, in order to be in hospitality, you have to love hospitality.
Correct.
And there is a passion for it. So how do you teach something like that?
It's funny. I try to identify when I see we're in the College of Business at FAU. So we have finance, marketing, accounting, management, all the traditional business majors. Hospitality is one of them. But if I have a student taking an elective class, an intro to hospitality, and I see their caregiver nature by action, how they treat their peers, holding the door open, how they speak, their hand gestures, I say, have you ever considered hospitality? Oh, well, I've worked in retail and I've worked in Target and I work at Chick-fil-A. And have you ever thought about being a natural for this business? No, I've never thought of that. I want to do finance. I want to do accounting. And then I step back and say, well, every company like Argonne, they're going to have finance people, they're going to have accountants, they're going to have IT, they're going to have all of these roles that any other business would have. You just happen to have the services mindset, which will make you better at that than anybody that's sitting next to you. And I kind of try to put the light bulb on them. But I think, we do have an issue about being a profession versus a job that is long-standing. I'm talking 50, 100 years. Here in South Florida, we have the highest number of affluent country clubs probably anywhere in America, where I think we're surrounded by 100 country clubs within 30 minutes of campus. And the country clubs rely heavily on international hires every year and interns from Portugal and South Africa and Spain and here and there because of the quality of service that is instilled in their young people in those countries when they study hospitality. They consider hospitality to be a profession in many other places of the world where we consider it a job. So I think we have some work there. Commenting on what Matt said about the grit and just showing up and doing your best. A lot of the students I teach expect to come out with an associate's, a certificate, or bachelor's and to be handed their management job. So there's a disconnect from I worked my way up without any college to I have a bachelor's or an MBA, what's in it for me, that I'm constantly showing. Just be the best in the role you're in. If you're, a destination concierge, which I know you have in your worlds, then be the best one there is among your peers. Be the one who responds to the guest the fastest, who thinks ahead of the guest's desires and takes care of them within whatever time zone you can imagine. That'll be so short, you'll be promotable. And the other thing that you touched upon is something I commend Carol Dober for telling me one day. She's the president and CEO of the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. And she had a statistic one day that she shared with me that I use with students a lot, that more entrepreneurs come from the hospitality industry than from any other. And if you just think about it, it's, Virgin, Hilton, Disney, all the founders of the airlines, the cruise lines, they're all entrepreneurs in business who happen to have a bent for people. So if you like taking care of people and you want to use it within a service industry that's profitable, I think this is a fantastic industry. So I've moved away from the pandemic woes and betrayal mindset that I got very entrenched in for a while because I was hearing it from thousands of people every day. Mm-hmm. And I've moved beyond to, okay, yeah, that's where we were. Where do we go now? And now I have to empathize with the owners who have to take it on the chin with the higher wages, because we've got to find a way to make that work. We can't just instantly pass along all the costs to the menu items at the IHOP or the Chick-fil-A. We can't just easily raise rates so simply that nobody notices and still spending their money, because inflation's already here at this point in time on November, whatever we are, 19th or 20th, 2021. I don't care what anybody says, inflation is here. And if we continue to pass it along in terms of price and higher wages, it's going to be here. But that's just something we have to deal with. People are not going to stop traveling. People are not going to want to, stay home from vacations. We just have to learn how to make the numbers work. And whatever that situation is, I'm not the one with the answers, but I mean, the people are telling us they want better pay, better benefits, better work-life balance. Okay, we heard you. Now, what do we do as operators and employers to meet in the middle and become the best employer possible, so that you're not like ones on my email list that have 700 positions open, 500 positions open. It's just incredible. Before I forget one thought, you mentioned Disney. Now, when I say we had 80, 90,000 people, I'm never really sure what the number is. I know over 65,000 completed our certificate, but we went and expanded it into a full-length certificate for $199. Because, like Matt said, a lot of people don't want to spend the money on college, but they want some formal education. So now we have a great 40-hour content certificate, and most of the people who did the free one came back and took the longer one. What I noticed among Disney cast members stood out to me very strongly, because we had over 7,000 of them among the certificate takers. They were the least bitter. They felt the most confident that they were going to find a job somewhere because of their skills and competencies that they've garnered at Disney. And they are the proudest to announce on social media when they go back to Disney. And I've noticed that, and I can't say it's a bit here and there. I mean, it's been thousands of instances. So it means something to me compared to the other major companies that had 3,000 to 6,000, 7,000 people each, where everybody was singing a song of "I Hate You." Disney never had that song. Even after the layoffs and furloughs, they were still waiting for their magical place to come back, and they were happy about what it did for them, even if they couldn't get back. That means something to me, hearing those voices. I don't know what it means, but it was very positive.
And you have to think that a part of that has to do with the way they onboard their teams, right? I mean, I'm currently reading a book that's called Bring Your Human to Work. And she's got it's done by Erica Coswin. And she's got some fascinating chapters on just what it means to go to work, how to incentivize your employees, how to build the right ecosystem so that your employees are happy at work. And I worked for Disney. It was one of my very first jobs. One of the first things that they did was train. And this goes back to everything that we say. I think, a good work environment starts with training, it giving good, expectations. What is your expectation of your employee? And then giving them a good environment to work out of. And when I started at Disney, the very first thing we did was a 3-day training course at Disney University. Now, was it a university? It's what they called their university.
Correct.
But it really trained me well to understand the process, what they wanted out of me as an employee at Disney. And it was more than just a human being at a theme park or at one of their water parks. It was to be part of the actual company. I was
something bigger than yourself. I agree.
Exactly. And it was part of being part of a team. And I think that that's a very big missing element. One of the things that we battle pretty hard with in the vacation rental spaces, and we keep going back to this, is education. And I think I reached out to you at one point to start discussing certification process for vacation rentals over COVID, because it's something that we talk about a lot in the industry, and we just can't seem to get a grasp of what that looks like. How are we we have so many different components getting a grasp of how we train each component within the industry and then translating that to each individual company is a very difficult exercise. So where does that process begin?
Well, you touched on a couple of different things. The first thing I want to comment on before I forget is what you experienced at Disney is very good onboarding. And there's a lady named Christine Trippi. I don't know if either or both of you know her. She has the Wise Pineapple, and I just was talking to her today. She's all about onboarding. And it's funny you mentioned that because one of my alumni just took a job with Four Seasons, and I'm going to send a big shout out to Four Seasons. He has a bachelor's in computer science, wants to work in IT, and has a hospitality demeanor, which doesn't usually occur too much in the IT world. And I saw him work in my mind fitting perfectly in an upscale luxury property in IT. So I sent him to Four Seasons. They loved him. They hired him. Totally fantastic onboarding, like an 8 or 10 page welcome letter with everything they do for their associates, how they treat you, how many free nights you're going to get a year because we respect you. And his first 2 full days of 8-hour orientation, I talked to him afterward. He was in shock because at the end, they wanted him to do a little role playing selling the property. And he's like, but I'm in IT. And they're like, well, do you feel Four Seasons yet? How would a Four Seasons person sell this hotel? And he loved it. He's already got buy-in in his first week. So onboarding is super, super important. And normally, what do we do in hospitality? We hire them. We're short 30 people. We just throw them right on the switchboard.
Yeah.
And they hardly know the name of their boss. So
and then we have an expectation that they're going to love where they work.
And they're going to enjoy, and they're going to do a great job. Hello, you haven't even been onboarded with who you work for yet. So unfortunately, that costs money. So all of the things that we have done wrong that led to this mass exodus were because we were becoming more and more efficient and, in my opinion, too cheap. We weren't doing things right. Now, some companies like Four Seasons, like Disney, maintained their standards as best as they could. They were still closed during COVID like the rest of us. But when they came roaring back, which hopefully they'll continue to do, they didn't take away those key things. Now, as far as certification, timeshare, as it was known back in the day, was the first evil thing in the reputation of the vacation ownership world. And the vacation ownership groups didn't do them very good service in their early years. Now you're light years ahead and you have the opportunity to work with the university and create a certification, maybe Certified Vacation Ownership Manager or CVOA, Certified Vacation Ownership Associate. And then you would work together to determine what components need to be in there. There definitely needs to be an introduction to resort management course about what goes on in resort operations. Maybe there needs to be a seminar on HOA and CAM licenses and why a manager in that industry or what a homeowners association means. Because even your hourly associates need to know that they're dealing with owners versus traditional check-in, check-out guests. You might need a piece on food and beverage. It could be very easy, 3 or 4 courses, but it would give somebody that feeling, like Matt said, like I have some education enough to be better than who's working with me in terms of my ability to take care of a guest, and it's going to help me go faster. So, that's easy to put together. There's a great gentleman in Orlando that I've met with several times who oversees the vacation ownership organization. His name slips my mind right now, but I ran into him at the Florida Governors Conference, and we post jobs for the association's members whenever they want to post. And I would love to do something like that because what we call shared housing, whatever you want to call it, it's on the move. It's bigger, stronger. And if I can go on vacation, I want to rent a home. My in-laws are coming in January. It's 2 of them, the grandma, the brother, the brother's girlfriend, this and that. They come to me right away. What hotel do you recommend? I'm like, have you considered renting a home? oh no, why would you rent a home? Can't we stay at yours? And like, no,
Nope.
So, but I think the home rental is not caught on as part of our industry yet. Airbnb has, which kind of bothers me because I'd rather rent a home in the home. I lived in Orlando for quite a while. So to me, the vacation home rental was always there. We just never were in the mainstay of ideas. I would rely on the two of you to give me some info for students. They're going to say, what does it mean to work in vacation rental home? Does that mean I work for one buddy's house, or what do I do? So,
Yes.
but certification, absolutely. You could use it in your industry because the industry has, it's come a long, long way, but it has a long way still to formalize itself. And education's a part of that. Like events, people always say, I want to work in events. There wasn't even the title of, there wasn't an events college program until almost 1980, which is unbelievable. And the meeting planner wasn't even an official labor title until the 90s. So, I mean, things just take a while to become official, so to speak.
And I think a lot of that becomes official with education.
Absolutely. Sorry, I'm rambling, but I get excited about vacation ownership and the industry and students. And I'm telling you, my hands are tired from posting jobs. I mean, I've never had anything like this. Going into COVID, I was posting maybe for about 300 or 400 employers, and I think now I'm close to 2,000. And every one of the employers has multiple job openings. Here in our backyard, the Boca Raton Resort and Club, which is now called simply the Boca Raton, they have had 500 to 700 positions open for the past 6 months. I don't know how many job fairs they've had. It's just scary. Can you imagine having like 37 banquet server positions open? And it's stress. What's happening is it's stressing those people left behind. And I'm afraid it's going to drive some of them out if we don't start filling these positions, because they're gonna burn out.
Yeah, it was interesting. We were booking a holiday party here recently for our company, and the restaurant we reached out to was a brand new restaurant, beautiful. And they basically came back to us and said, you know what, we'd love to host your party, but we don't know if we can staff it.
Wow.
It's for 40 people.
Yeah.
So
And think about the equity investors like Matt works for. I mean, they're investing in a business that's not going to last long. Know, it's not going to last long. I mean, so all these things go together because, we squeezed our employees so tight and we became so efficient that we kind of led them out of the industry in a massive dose. Now we have to get back and kind of eat crow and say, okay, where do we meet in the middle where I can make a reasonable profit, but I can also take care of you very well and make you love this business like I do. It's kind of coming to the center. And the conversation gets better and better every time I have it because I'm just an optimist by nature. But I tell you, I'm 56. I wish I was 18. I'd be jumping on one of those $16, $17 hour jobs right now. I'd be super happy to get in the door. I mean, by the time you even graduate college, you're going to be at $20 an hour, which is about 40 grand. I mean, that's incredible. That's just simply incredible. And more power to you, because if you stand out, you're going to be right on the path to success.
Yeah, I mean, so many good points there. I think I can't remember when I posted it. It's early on during COVID, but I remember saying something along the lines. I was actually going to see where if I could go back in my LinkedIn feed, but I think I said that one of the biggest long-term effects of COVID might be the really good employees who got snatched up, right, by the Amazons of the world, or whoever who wasn't seeing the dramatic effects on their industry. And the fact is, it's kind of like losing a guest. We used to say in the restaurant industry, you tried not to close for remodeling, because once you got outside of a person's, everyday habits, even if it was just for a few months, it was tough to recreate those habits. If I'm a coffee shop, people, and I think what happened was, we lost people, and other industries realized we had some really good people. You're not going to be able to bring all those people back. So now, and it does concern me when we talk about the education and the onboarding, because I was thinking to myself, we've actually started working on better documenting and better building our onboarding. And but you're right, we run into the same problems. We're like, look, you just need to get in. Like, we just need people just to, so you throw them on the front lines. Mm-hmm. And not ill-intentioned, right? It's just like you don't, now it's kind of become, now it builds upon itself. It snowballs.
Yeah,
we have to throw them in, and then, or we don't have people, so we burn out the people we have, and now we have less people, and then we got to throw people in, and you just don't have the opportunity. And look, some employees can take that and run with it, but you can't assume all can. And
correct.
And I fault myself sometimes for that, because I'll fall into that trap. Well, if they don't get it quick, they're not going to get it. And look, for some that's true, but for some it just takes a little bit. And right now we're not giving them the little bit that it takes. I wonder how many good ones we're losing again because they never got the chance.
The other question there for me, Matt, is you assume that they're right for a position within your company. You put them into that position, but you're not giving them the opportunity. I'm not speaking specifically about you, to possibly excel in another area within your company. You have a need to fill inside of your company. So you found somebody that might fill that role, but they may not be the right person. Where else can they fit in? And I think a lot of people are overseeing that, but they're overseeing it and burning the people out at the same time, and we're losing them. Not in the right
well, these things, unfortunately, they do cost a lot of money. I mean, if you're going to do Myers-Briggs or predictive index or take the time to find the right people, that costs money. And then if you're going to onboard correctly, that costs money. But in the big picture, I still think it costs less money than bad turnover, bad guest experience and loss of repeat guests, because it just makes better business sense in the long run to do things the right way. So along the way, somehow we were so focused on efficiency and metrics and this and that we lost the human factor. So I want to read that book again. Brian, after the podcast, if you can email it to me, I would love it. And you guys both really need to talk to Christine Trippi a little bit, because she does some great onboarding suggestions for different organizations that might be reasonable enough for you to incorporate. I mean, we do it at FAU. We have a short orientation, but it takes me a good 6 or 12 months to get a faculty member up to speed. For a front desk agent, they might know the property management system, the PMS, because they used it across town, but they don't know my management company. They don't know the layout of the building. They don't know what to do if a tornado or hurricane's coming. Who do I call first? Where's the fire panel? And yet here you are, your first day. Hi, smile to the guests. You give them a key. It's just been the way we do things, because we're such a 24/7 crazy business, and that's okay. But I know we can work in certain areas. I'd love to work with the two of you on something vacation rental, because I really think that's an area that's destined for success for the right group. Matt's mentioned something early on that, 10% of the people who do it wrong get 90% of the media attention and bad juice. And that just kind of has to go away, because the first thing my in-laws said was, oh, we can't rent a house. I heard they don't clean them well. Well, where did you hear that? From my neighbor who stayed one time 10 years ago. I'm like, bad information, Yeah. So,
a couple quick things there. One is, I think what we are seeing, Peter, or what we've seen is now, because you don't have, or there's the feeling you don't have the time to train these employees, we're stealing from within the industry. Because now I bring in somebody who already has the connections, who understands how this industry works. And now you're just kind of rotating a problem. And I think that's one thing. I think two, you brought it up earlier, but and I think it's a famous kind of joke, but it was, or saying, but it was that the CFO who says to the CEO, "What if we train our people and they leave?" And the CEO says, "What if we don't train our people and they stay?"
Yeah, that's my quote line in my email signature.
Yeah.
It's something to that effect in my email signature. You got to see it. I forget who said it, but I love that quote because as a GM, people would always say, "Oh my God, you're taking your best people and you're always finding them jobs other places." I'm like, then I groom the next set. What's wrong with that? And if they take a job within our company, so be it. "Oh, but you're giving up your executive housekeeper. Now you're going to struggle in housekeeping." I'm like, "No, I'm going to find the next great executive housekeeper." But so that's very short-sighted to not want to grow them and keep them energetic, And it's funny, some of them don't want to grow. And that's completely fine. I have some in the certificate program. They've been a front desk agent for 20 years and they love it and they don't want to deal with management and they don't want to deal with this and that. More power to them. I was at fault when I was a GM of always trying to promote the best ones. Well, you have to sit there and listen to them as humans because our business has a place for everybody. The ones that want to rise to CEO and the ones that maybe are balancing some stuff at home and they only want to work 3 days a week and they're happy with that. But if you don't ask them, you don't know. You just assume.
Absolutely true. This has been a fascinating conversation, Matt.
Well, yeah, it really, and I think we do need to get together with Peter and figure out how within our organization, our associations, that we do a better job. Creating certifications sometimes is viewed as trying to create moats, right, and make it harder for people to get in. I don't think it. I think it's about preserving the industry, right? Because if not, you're going to allow the bad actors to bring an industry down. I mean, we've seen it with taxes, we've seen it with regulations, right? Yeah. It's better to be an active participant in the conversation and elevate the entire industry than it is to stick your head in the sand and just say we don't have a problem. The one thing I will say, Peter, as we wrap up here is, you brought up entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs, I do believe, gravitate towards hospitality. I think entrepreneurs in general, one is they see the opportunity, right? That if I can make a guest happier than someone else, like there's money to be made. And some of that's just about, I'm willing to outwork the other person. But I will say within hospitality, there is probably not a more entrepreneurial segment right now than vacation rentals. You want to get in, it's hotels, you got the 5 flags, right? I mean, you got the flags and so, and not to say that those aren't entrepreneurial, but I think it's kind of it's the young upstart within the already entrepreneurial segment of hospitality. So it is exciting, I think, for students and something that they ought to look at.
That's interesting. Yeah, our College of Business has a really good entrepreneurship major in leadership. It's leadership and entrepreneurship. And a lot of those students either joint major with me in hospitality or minor in hospitality because they want to go into a service business of some sort. Mm-hmm. And I'm tired of losing them to Chewy and Amazon and Target. I mean, yeah, I call them hospitality companies in the big picture, but I want them back in our own world, realizing that this is a great business. We will get there. It's just going to be a little bit of time. And, right now, like I said, I empathize with the owners trying to get their arms around the cost repercussions of the wage increase and the desire for work-life balance and the move to remote. We're all in transition, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Because we love the industry.
Yeah. And if you love people, there's no better place for you to work. It's an industry that'll take you anywhere.
Paul or Peter, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'd love to have you back so we could dive into a few of these further, these talks, but it's been really insightful and I think will be really helpful for some of our listeners. So thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks you guys for having me. Send me the link. I'll share around and have safe travels ahead. All right.
We'll do it. Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Bye.
Peter.
Take care.